That's where we leave the ambassador there in Canberra, and very different tone to the wolf warrior diplomacy that we saw not that long ago from China. So it's a very different message we're hearing, a much more collegiate, cooperative message coming from Beijing and from their representative in Canberra. Joining me is the former Speaker in the House of Representatives and the Deputy Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Intelligence and Security, Andrew Wallace. Do you welcome a more constructive message there from the ambassador? Because we compare it to his predecessor, and it is very different in tone.
Well, it is, and we've seen that in Chinese missions around the world where there's that departure from the wolf warrior diplomacy, and of course the coalition welcomes that. But I think it's important to recognise that that departure, in the first instance, that conduct of that wolf warrior diplomacy and the fact that the Chinese ministers and government wasn't talking to the former coalition government, that was on the Chinese government. That was their decision not to pick up the phone and talk to us. So we obviously welcome a warming of the relationship. I think it's important to recognise it's an incredibly important trade relationship. But it's also very important that we don't acquiesce to or forget about the problems of the world, the human rights violations with the Uighurs and in Tibet, what's happening in Taiwan, talks of blockading Taiwan. I think it's very important that we still ensure that we have freedom of overflight in the South China Sea and freedom of navigation in the South China Sea. We can't resolve from that, and we need to, as a democratic nation, stick up for fellow democracies.
Interesting response to the Trump tariff question, where he says we shouldn't let the actions of a third party affect cooperation between China and Australia. That might be his hope, but when you look at the level of tariffs, and we've had breaking news today with Donald Trump announcing a further 10% tariff on China. He's not even in the White House yet. And he's slapping another 10% on top of whatever else was promised previously, I think up to 60%. And then 25% on Canada and Mexico, additional to that. But for the Chinese ambassador says he's hoping that we can keep things on an even keel.
Well, I think that's everybody's hope. And I think that the Chinese ambassador rightly pointed out that we all the countries of the world need to respect the democratic processes of the United States. The people of the United States voted for Donald Trump. He was very upfront about his tariff policies prior to the election, and he's making good on those points.
What about Australia's reaction and response? What do we need to do? Given Canada, I mean, this is for both friend and foe, these tariffs being slapped on over the last few hours.
Well, I think, the onus is now on Anthony Albanese and Kevin Rudd to demonstrate that they are up to the task. When Joe Hockey was the ambassador to the United States previously, Joe was able to secure exemptions from those tariffs that were imposed in a former Trump government, and it will be up to the current Australian government to demonstrate that it's able to do the same.
What do you think of the Trump move? As you said, he did. It's not like it should surprise anyone.
It shouldn't surprise anybody, and he's making good on his election commitments.
Yeah, he is indeed. Now, on the social media age ban, some of your colleagues, Alex Antic and Matt Canavan, have raised concerns about it. Are you worried about coalition support maybe wavering on this?
Not at all. I'm not going to go into discussions that have occurred in Party Room this morning, but the overwhelming majority of view is to support social media bans in relation to lifting the age to 16. We think that is a good thing. We think that's long overdue. Concerns that have been raised publicly in the media have principally been around the process by which the government has rushed this. Peter Dutton was out in June of this year, calling for lifting of age to 16. And it's unfortunate that the government has dithered and delayed its response. In fact, it fought against us for the best part of 5 months and is now only in this sitting week, the final sitting week, bringing this bill.
Well, and bipartisan support, a lot of people think it's the right thing to do, yet some expert groups and some mental health groups, I noticed, I was surprised by it, but pushing back against it, saying there are other ways to get social media to cooperate. It seems delusional, that sort of suggestion, as if the big tech and social media are going to, out of the goodness of their heart, cooperate.
Look, I was absolutely flabbergasted in the committee inquiry that was set up to look at this very point of age of 16 for social media. I was flabbergasted that some mental health groups came out and said that this wasn't a good thing. I was so flabbergasted, I in fact asked all of these mental health groups to put on the record as to whether they had received funding from social media platforms. And many of them are receiving funding or the like in kind from the social media platforms. I think it's very disappointing that it required me to ask that question, where you get these conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
I mean, this place is replete with conflicts of interest, but I would have thought that they would have come out and disclosed that without me asking for it.
Andrew Wallace, I know it's been an issue you've been pushing hard on internally as well for a long time, so good that there is finally progress. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.